Shalom, shalom, Mr. Brother Mawasar.
Shalom, shalom. It's the brother Shamoa All.
And today, like you see in the title, we going into Remember Saul. All right, remember what Saul did. Remember the life of Saul. Remember his history, his track record, his reputation. That's very important for us to remember. All right, so I'm going to get right into it. But first, let's go to Romans chapter 15 and verse number 4. So we got to get into it because we're not going into these accounts for no reason. It's Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. So we going into Saul for us to have patience and comfort, for us to know what to do and more importantly what not to do. Right. So if you want to get in there, you can go ahead.
Khan, I got a quick precept. Right. All praise to Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Right. For another day. Right. Lord, what them brothers and sisters are enduring. Right. Quick precept. Sirach chapter 44, verse 1. It says, let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us. The Lord had worked great glory by them through his great power from the beginning. Right. So we always need to go and see what our forefathers have done, to the ones that done righteousness and did the glory of the Lord. And on those who was disobedient and did evil in the sight of the Lord, we have to learn from these accounts. Right? We have to learn from our forefathers, even righteous or evil. Right? It says, such as did bear rule in their kingdoms, men renowned for their power, giving counsel by their understanding, and declaring prophecies. Right? Leaders of the people by their counsels and by their knowledge of learning, meet for the people, wise and eloquent in their instructions. So you have forefathers that was leaders of the people, but they didn't lead them correctly. Do you have forefathers where they did lead them correctly? You know, the Noah, Moses, right? Go back, Abraham, Joseph. You had Judas. Famous names we like to bring up. Paul, Peter, you know, famous men, famous men of renown. Hey, Yahweh, right? So you got to go back to your forefathers and learn of their ways, right? So we're gonna get to it. First Samuel chapter 10. So as you see, the title, right? We're gonna go into Saul. Got to remember Saul and the acts that he did, and make sure the things that he didn't apply, we apply them, and make sure the things that he have applied, we apply those as well, right? So this is First Samuel chapter 10, verse 1. It says, then Samuel took a veil of oil and poured it upon his head and kissed him and said, it is not because the Lord hath anointed thee to be captain over his inheritance. So Saul was anointed. Saul was chosen to be king of Israel, right? Just how we are chosen to do this work. So Saul was anointed just how we are anointed, right? We're consecrated. Saul was consecrated, right? Let's get that. Let's get another one through the Spirit, right? All right, let me see. First Kings, right? What I wanted. First Kings, chapter 1, verse, right? What I wanted. Salakia. Right? Verse 39. First Kings chapter 1, verse 39. And Zadok the priest took an horn of oil out of the tabernacle and anointed Solomon. So when the Lord washes you, by the word, cleanse your mentality, right? For all the philosophies that you used to partake in and the doctrines that you used to know, and all the witchcraft and all the sin that you have done, he washes you and anoints you, and you are chosen. You've been selected, right? You've been employed by the Most High God. So Saul was employed by that, just how we all are. So if you keeping the commandments the best of your ability, you um, you prophesying, you planting seeds, and you repenting, you're fasting. Hey, you've been chosen. You know the knowledge of the Lord. You've been elected. You've been selected, right? As I like to say. So Saul was selected, but let's see how he was moving. While he was in his truth. Through the Spirit, right? So we go to First Samuel chapter 13, and let's go to verse 1. Right? It says, Saul reigned 1 year, and when he had reigned 2 years over Israel, Saul chose him 3,000 men of Israel. Right? So Saul was, as you like to say, was on fire for 2 years. Let's see what he has done in his third year. Because let me get this, right? Let's get Sirach. Right, before we even get to it, because the Lord said you need to wax old in his truth, right? You need to wax old in his truth, right? What I wanted. That should be Sirach. What I wanted through the Spirit. So I can bear with me. All right. All right. So he was on fire for 2 years. In the third year, we're gonna get into that. I want to find this scripture precept, right? This Sirach chapter 11 and verse 20. It says, "Be steadfast in thy covenant, and be conversant therein, or be conversant therein, and wax old in thy work." Right? So you got wax old in your work, man. Being diligent, right? Having integrity, right? Doing the works of the Lord, waxing old. You know, if you're not waxing old in this truth, I mean, you just stop doing the first works. So Saul reigned 1 year, and when he had reigned 2 years over Israel, right? So those 2 years he was obedient. Those 2 years he was doing what he needed to do. As some of us, the things you used to do in this truth when you was just coming in, the second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, whatever year you in, according to the grace and mercy of the Lord, you don't do the same no more, right? You don't have that same zeal. So it said when he had reigned 2 years over Israel, right, Saul chose him 3,000 men of Israel, whereof 2,000 were with Saul and Michmash and in Mount Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin, and the rest of the people he sent every man to his tent. Right? I'm gonna jump down. Right? Let's go to verse 8. Salaki. Let's before we get to that, let's see what was commanded to him, right, before this happened. Right? This first Samuel chapter 10, verse 8. Right? It says, "And thou shalt go down before me to Gilgal, and behold, I will come down unto thee to offer burnt offerings and to sacrifice sacrifices of peace offerings. 7 days shalt thou tarry till I come to thee and shew thee what thou shalt do." So this was Samuel, what really the Lord was commanding, right? Out of the mouth of Samuel, the Lord was commanding Saul to, you know, uh, thou shalt go down to Gilgal, right, where he sacrificed, right, and tarry there until he come. 7 days, right? This was a commandment by the Lord that he should do, right? So let's go back to First Samuel chapter 13, right? This is the third year. So whatever year that you in this truth in, and you doing the things, you know, that you was doing when you were first coming in, and you're not doing it no more, we should take heed to that, right? It says First Samuel chapter 13. Let me get that verse. Let me see what I want. Verse 6. It says, "When the men of Israel saw that they were in a strait, for the people were distressed, then the people did hide themselves in caves and in thickets, and in rocks, and in high places, and in pits. And some of the Hebrews went over Jordan land to the land of Gad and Gilead. As for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. And he tarried 7 days according to the set time Samuel had appointed him. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. So Samuel, right, the Lord commanded, out of the mouth of Samuel, hey, tarry here 7 days, right? And as you see, the people are trembling, right? They scattered, right? So let's see how you act. And Saul said, bring hither a burnt offering to me and peace offerings, and he offered the burnt offering. That wasn't told for him to do. Right? It says, and it came to pass that as soon as he made an end of offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came. So he wasn't patient. You know, he told him to tarry 7 days, right? Samuel didn't come at the appointed time where he thought he was supposed to come. But that's that patience, you know, of all Israel that need to work on, right? Let's get some precepts, right? Let's get Ecclesiastes chapter 7. And that's the fruits of the spirit, man. Right? It's like it. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 8. It says, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and a patient in spirit is better than a proud in spirit. Right? So it's better to be patient, man. No, it's better to be patient than to be proud. Because he had a direct order. Think about how many times the Lord gave you order or something, thou shalt not, or you read a precept, or you at camp, or through the spirit, the Lord put the spirit on the brother, he teaching, and a precept come up, and and you didn't take heed to it, right? I mean, that's off, right? So let's get to that. It says, I'm gonna read that again. It says, and it came to pass that as soon as he made an end of offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came. So just imagine how as soon as you got done doing what you're not supposed to do, your damn father show up. You know, you, you know, you, I'm trying to think of an example, but it happens as kids. You were supposed to do something, you didn't do it accordingly or how it should be done. The next thing your parents come in. That's literally the same spirit, right? It says, and Saul went out to meet him that he might salute him. And Samuel said, what hast thou done? So he didn't follow orders, right? And the one thing is what messed up about Israel, that we don't follow orders and we don't listen, right? And he was tested. The people are trembling, right? Everybody's around you so frantic and just anxiety, people emotions through the roof, but you had a specific order. How you gonna react when everybody else is in a room is panicking? Are you gonna react the same way they are, or are you gonna keep the commandment of the Most High God? Right? Everybody's saying we're gonna go this way when the Lord told you to go the other way. Are you gonna follow them? Right? That's not the will of the Lord. That's the will of man. Right? Let's read on to that. It says, it's, it says Samuel said, what hast thou done? And Saul said, because I saw that the people were scattered from me, that thou camest not within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered themselves together at Michmash. Therefore said I, the Philistines will come down now upon me to Gilgal, and I have not made supplication unto the Lord. I forced myself, therefore, and offered a burnt offering. So you should never force the course of the river. He forced himself. You don't want to force yourself to do anything. Imagine how many times when you was in the world, you just force yourself to do whatever. Next thing you know, you jammed up. Next thing you know, you put yourself 4 times back, 2 years back of something that you shouldn't even done in the first place. And you knew you shouldn't have done it, right? But the main point is Saul didn't listen. Saul didn't listen. He had a direct order face to face, and he didn't keep that. And while everybody else is frantic and he's scared, and if he think the Philistines are going to gather themselves together at Mikmesh, that's when he end up making an order when the Lord had everything under control, right? If you got a precept out, you got it.
Let me grab this right quick. It's in Ecclesiastes chapter 4. Right. Definitely want to grab this. All right, because the brother bringing it Almighty. I mean, here it is. This man's supposed to be the king. He's supposed to be the highest man in the land, and he moving however he want to move. Right. I'm gonna skip that for right now. We gonna get to this verse in Sirach, and then you got it. So we gotta understand how Saul being who he was wasn't a light thing. It wasn't something that you can just skip over and be like, "Oh, that was a cool story." I mean, this really happened, right? This Sirach chapter 10 and verse. I want number 3. I'm gonna start at verse 2. Sirach 10 and 2. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. Verse 3. An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. So by having an unwise king, by having a willful king, by having a king, a reprobate king, whatever you want to call it, you can jam all of the people up, all of them. Because, like it says, an unwise king destroyed his people. And we're going to get into that. But you got it.
Khan, an unwise king will destroy his people. That's all from not listening to one simple thing. Just imagine how many times you didn't listen to one simple thing. You know, yeah, you may have to, somebody have to repeat it. Cool. At least you ask before you end up making that move. But he know what was direct order. Terry had to go 7 days. It's the seventh day. Samuel was coming, but as soon as he did what he wasn't supposed to do, then he came. That lets you know of patience. And people, you can't have somebody's emotions dictate your decision. That's off. That's off. Right. So quick precept, Sirach chapter 6, verse 33. It says, if thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding. And if thou bow thine ear, thou shalt be wise. So if you love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding. So Saul did something like he didn't understand at all, you know. But to the fact that somebody else or a crowd dictated his move, and uh he felt like he had to make a name for himself. Not saying that's what it is, but you don't want to be in this thing and trying to make a name for yourself. Oh, damn. That's like a bench player. You never started, you never got in the game before, and you just what LeBron injured, and you just, it's time for me to start. You just will yourself in there. Well, that's not even a point to you to do that. I got this, coach. I got this, coach. You go out there and make a fool out of yourself. Damn, 0 from 50. First of all, you ain't even take that many shots. They're not even going to allow you to do that. You probably limited 5 shots, maybe 3, and you take 10. You must run not have a contract no more. So Saul didn't listen. It says, if thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding, right? And if you love to hear, you will receive understanding, and you will apply of what you heard because you love understanding. You know that you don't know anything and you need guidance, right? So you will apply the things that you heard, that you learned, the understanding that you received from Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. But just by this trait, Saul didn't listen. He didn't listen, and he did something that's his will and not of the Most High, right? Let's get John. because Yahushua did the will of the Father. He didn't do his own will, right? Everything is of Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, right? So it is John chapter 5, verse 30. I can of my own self do nothing, right? So the Lord said, I can of my own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not my own will. You got a lot of people that seek their own will in the truth. They want to make a name for themselves. They want to have the best breakdown, right? They just want to be this mighty Hebrew. But our Lord said he seek not his own will. When he came in the flesh, he literally was set on earth to do the will of the Lord, to save the nation. He was selfless, right? Selfless. He was unselfish, right? He was of the nation to save Israel so we able to come back as one, as a nation, to get the kingdom, to have everlasting life. It said, because I seek not my own will, but the will of the Father which has sent me. So we here to do the will of the Father, not our own. Saul ended up doing the will of him just because everybody else was frantic and he wanted to be the superhero. In the world, not saying this is Saul, but in the world, brothers be trying to save Eve. You Captain Save-A-Ho, man. You don't want to be no Captain Save-A-Ho. If I can say that, right? But Saul, he just let he just let somebody dictate their decision, right? Let's go to Exodus, right? Exodus 23. Exodus 23 and verse 2, it says, thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause, right? That's the point though. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, right? I mean, you should not, a crowd to dictate how you should move. And you got a lot of people doing that today, you know, just got your spirit just waving to and fro just because of how somebody else reacting, emotions. You have men dictating their decisions because of their ribs, of a woman that they courting. They trimming their ways, right? So one more precept, and then you got it, Ak, if you got anything. All right. You got something through the spirit. I'm gonna go to the book of Haggai. All right. Because did Saul think about, would it be right for him to do it? You got a specific order from the Lord, from the prophet Samuel. This is not no ordinary person. It haven't been a seer ever since Samuel came and he gave you a direct order and you wanted to do something out of your own will. You didn't think twice, right? So this Haggai chapter 1, verse 5, it says, now therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways, or you have to consider your thoughts. You have to see, is it really of the Most High? Is this what I should do? Is this of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua? No, I can't do that. I can't do that. You got to think things through. Israel, this is why the Lord said that we are beasts, because whatever pops in our head, we just do it, right? If you're not following the ways of the Lord, you're acting like a dog. You're acting like a lion. You're acting like a beast, a creature, right? But you got to act.
Con, I want to get the classic in Proverbs chapter 1. Right. This is Proverbs chapter 1. I believe I want verse number 7. Proverbs 1 and verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Right? I'm gonna read that again. I read that wrong. Salaki. Proverbs 1 and 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So look, when Samuel was giving Saul direct orders on how to move, he giving Saul direct directions on, hey, do this, don't do that, definitely do this, definitely don't do that. Hey, it say you a fool if you despise them instructions, right? I'm gonna read that again. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Hey, the beginning of knowing anything is knowing not to play with the Most High, right? Now, ask yourself, just based off of the accounts that you can read, out of the accounts that me and this brother is bringing out on this video, did Saul have the fear of the Lord? Did he have any knowledge at all, according to this scripture? Or was he the fool that despised wisdom and instruction? Right? I'm gonna get this in Job, because Job spoke on something similar, but he said it in his own way, and it was beautiful. Right? I'm on Job chapter 32. And verse, I believe I want to start at verse 8. This is Job chapter 32, and verse number 9. Great men are not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment. It says, great men are not always wise. Somebody having a title don't mean they know anything. You know? Being the president don't mean that you are all knowing. It don't mean you smart. Being the CEO of the company, being the group leader, being whatever you want to call it, being a great man, having a lot, being known by a lot, doesn't mean that you're a wise person. And if Saul is not a perfect example of that, I don't know what is. I'm gonna read that again. It's Job chapter 32 and verse 9. Great men are not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment. But you got it.
God, see that? Did he have to fear the Lord? Right, that's a mighty point. Right, so we're gonna get back to that First Samuel 13. Oh, I had a quick precept. Salaki. Right, let's go to Luke 21:19. Luke chapter 21, verse 19. It says, in your patience, possess ye your souls. So in your patience, you have to possess your soul. Because your flesh may want to do things. You see everything, just out of order, all hell breaking loose. But you have to have patience. You have to possess your soul in your patience, right? The only way you can have that is if your mind is resting upon the Lord, knowing what he told you to do, knowing the precepts, right? And Saul didn't do these things because he saw all hell breaking loose around him, and he decided to do something out of his own will, right? So First Samuel chapter 13, verse 13, it says, and Samuel said to Saul, thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee. For now would the Lord have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. Right? And that's something you don't want to hear, you know, right? You have done foolishly. Imagine looking at the Lord face to face and he tells you you have done foolishly. Who wants to hear that? You know, I don't want to hear that. God forbid any brother or sister want to hear that. It says thou hast done foolishly. This commandment, the first commandment, well, according to what we read in this first commandment, he didn't listen, you know. And it says, but now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord hath sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord hath commanded him to be captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee. That one time, right? And you don't know the mercy the Lord gave you. You don't know how much, right? Let's get Romans. And that's a and if you was lacking in the fear of the Lord, most high willing, just by that saying, that should get you back on track. Because you don't know how much mercy you have. You don't know how much grace you have. Your grace periods don't last a long time. You gotta pay rent on the first. Your grace periods to the fifth. After that, you finna start owing a lot of money. You finna start owing debt, and it's gonna keep going up and going up and going up until you pay. So how much of the Lord? You don't know how long that is. You're not finna just keep putting Yahweh Shah on the cross. That's off. That's off, man. All right. What precept I wanted? All right. I don't want that to cross my mind. Yeah, let me get that actually. All right. Romans. That's what I want. Romans chapter 9. Right. This is Romans chapter 9, verse 15. Right. It says, "For he said to Moses, I will have mercy on him. Right. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy. Right. I'm gonna read that again. For he said to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. So then it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that sheweth mercy." That should give you the fear of the Lord. That should get you right back, right? Right back on track. Get your head straight. Because just by that one time, hey, the Lord said, hey, your kingdom, it would have been established forever, right? Now your kingdom shall not continue. And we don't want that, you know. God forbid, you know. Now, how long mercy is gonna last? Let's get that. Let's get Sirach. How long that mercy is gonna last? We got Day of Atonement coming up, right? And you got people that still not fasting until the Day of Atonement. How long you think the Lord is gonna allow that? How long you think that you not keeping the feast days if you have knowledge of it? If you have knowledge of the feast days and new moons, and you just jackballing the high holy days, how long you think that's gonna last? How long you think that's gonna last if you're dealing with the same spirit? How long you think that mercy, the Lord is continually gonna show mercy and compassion towards you, right? I mean, He's not like man. I mean, man, yes, man snaps quickly. Man have a quick temper. The Lord is patient, long suffering, but it's gonna be a matter of time. Like, okay, now you just being hard. I don't know what it is. You trying to take advantage of the Lord? That's off. If anybody dealing with something, ask yourself, am I trying to take advantage of the Lord? Ask yourself that question, and let's see what you come up with. Right? This is Sirach chapter 5 and verse 6. It says, "And say not his mercy is great. He will be pacified for the multitude of my sins. For mercy and wrath come from him, and his indignation rested upon sinners." This is a reprobate mind. You don't want to have a reprobate mind, right? You don't want to have the same spirit as Saul, not taking heed to what the Lord told you. And all praise to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah, we're able to have that grace period and a mercy to correct ourselves. But yeah, we can beg for mercy, but how long that mercy is gonna last though? The fact that we have to beg for mercy, we don't just receive it. We have to beg for it. We have to ask for it. You got brothers begging for overtime at their jobs, right? You got Eve them begging for whatever, begging for that Birkin bag, begging for a lot of things, right? But we gotta beg for mercy to the Lord, man. The fact that we gotta beg, that should automatically get yourself straight, right? I'm gonna read that again. It says, "Say not his mercy is great." Because that's really what you're saying through the spirit. His mercy is great. Whatever spirit that you're dealing with, you saying, hey, his mercy is great, man. That's off, right? So I'm gonna read 1 Samuel 13 and 14. It says, "But now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has saw him a man after his own heart, and the Lord hath commanded him to be captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee." This was said in Saul's face. Told him, right? Your kingdom shall not continue. I know a man that's better than you, that actually is going to seek my heart. He seeketh my heart. He's humble. Imagine if a brother told you that, thus said the Lord. You know what? Hey, you gonna have to go. I know a brother that's gonna take your office. He actually gonna fulfill his office. That should hurt you. If that doesn't hurt you or make you feel some type of way, or you gotta check your spirit, man. Right? Because obviously the Lord see that you've done something wrong. He been seeing it, right? So let's go to First Samuel. Right? This is just an account on how to move. You gotta have patience, right? You can't uh whatever that's going on around you can't have that dictate your spirit, right? Let's get that. Let's get a quick account through the spirit. Let's go to Nehemiah because Nehemiah, that's that same spirit of Nehemiah, man. Because while the people were scared and they asked him to hide, he didn't do that. And ultimately, that was Satan trying to overthrow him. That's people. Israel make it very easy for Satan to overthrow. Really, Satan ain't even got to do much. You know, this Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 10, right? I'm gonna start at verse 9. It says, "For they all made us afraid, saying, Their hands shall be weakened from the work, that it be not done. Now therefore, O God, strengthen my hands." Right? It says, "Afterward I came unto the house of Shemaiah, the son of Deliah, the son of Mahatabel, who was shut up. And he said, Let us meet together in the house of God within the temple, and let us shut the doors of the temple, for they will come to slay thee. Yeah, in the night will they come to slay thee." So they afraid, man. They was afraid, talking about their hands is gonna be weakened. That's what the other nation said, the heathen said, right? And he said, Come on, let's shut the doors. Right? That fearful heart. Right? Verse 11, it says, "And I said, Should such a man as I flee? Who is there that being as I am will go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in." So just because it's somebody else's spirit feeling some type of way doesn't mean you also move in that spirit. And you have to discern, is that the spirit of the Most High, or is that the spirit, of damn demons trying to overthrow you, man? Is that Satan trying to overthrow you? Right? Verse 12, it says, "And lo, I perceive that God had not sent him." Right? So yes, we in the flesh or whatever, but according to the precept, we have to perceive what's going on. Right? Because Nehemiah perceived that God have not sent him, right? Read on, it says, "But that he pronounced this prophecy against me, for Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him." So he perceived, hey man, look, we need to hide in here, man. They gonna slay us and this and that. That's off, man. You gonna head out.
I want to get a quick precept in Proverbs about that, right? Because, like the brother said, you got to have that discernment to know what's going on. You got to be able, quick flash, quick, fast, and in a hurry to be able to say, "Nah, that's not of the Lord. Nah, that's not the Most High to tell me to do that. Nah, that's not counsel from the Lord." Right? It's Proverbs chapter 22 and verse number 3. All right, selected my page sticking together. It's Proverbs 22 and verse 3. "A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." Right? One thing you'll see a lot with our forefathers, who was wise, who had discernment specifically, is that they saw it coming from a mile away. Right? And if I can, I want to get an example of that. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 18. Right. 1 Samuel chapter 18, and I want to get into verse 5. 1 Samuel chapter 18 and verse 5. "And David went out whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely. And Saul set him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servant." Right? So, hey, David was doing his thing. He was moving right, moving smart. He wasn't doing a little too much. He wasn't doing a little too little. He was doing exactly what he needed to do. But let's drop down to the point. Verse number 8. And Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him. And he said, they have ascribed unto David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? So here it is, Saul. If y'all don't know this account, right? You got women singing about, hey, Saul got a couple thousand bodies, but hey, David and his 10,000s. And Saul got mad about that, right? He started hating on David from that very moment. Let's keep reading. I mean, it literally says it, verse 9. And Saul eyed David from that day and forward, right? A lot of times, like I brought out in the beginning of the video, things are written aforetime is written for our learning. A lot of times, when you in this truth, you might have somebody who don't like you for something that don't even have nothing to do with you. Where is the account that says David told them women to sing that song? It's not in there. It's not in 1 Samuel 18. I can tell you that for sure. Right? But yet and still, because David was renowned in the mouth of the people more than Saul, he got mad at David for that. How backwards is that? Let's keep reading. Verse 10, and it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house. And David played with his hand as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. I mean, you want to talk about being prudent and foreseeing the evil. You think that, hey, we talking about King David here. You think he was slow? You think he didn't know what Saul's plan was? It said, and David avoided out of his presence twice, man. So I'm gonna get that in Proverbs 22 again, and then you got it. Right? All right, it's Proverbs chapter 22. We're gonna get verse 3 again. Proverbs 22 and 3. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. All right, what you got up?
Con, that's somebody's precept. That was a spirit. I was thinking about that. Right? I'm gonna get Proverbs yeah, that's 14. Right. So Saul, I mean, we should take heed to what Saul has done and make sure we don't do those things and apply what he didn't do. Right? Proverbs chapter 14, verse 15. Right? It reads, the simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. And Nehemiah was a prudent man, right? He was very prudent. He didn't believe every single word. And even if he did believe that they were scared, he said, you know what? I ain't taking heed to that. Because that's not the Most High didn't send him. That's not of the Lord. He got work to do, right? So, and it's crazy, brother brought out Saul having that jealous spirit. Saul was he was too carnal, man. He was too carnal. But the thing is, he was on fire for 2 years. And that could be any one of us. So we ain't having that due diligence in the Lord, waxing old in his truth, and not waxing worse and worse. Hey, man, if you are waxing worse and worse, best believe you will, and your kingdom will not be established forever. Right? So we're gonna get 1 Samuel chapter 15, right? Let's see what I want. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 1. It says, Samuel also said unto Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, and remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. So a lot of Israel know this story, right? Know this chapter. The Lord commanded him to smite Amalek, utterly destroy them, slay their beast, suckling, ox, sheep, camel, right? Destroy everything. Right, verse 4, it says, and Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in to Telaim, 200,000 footmen and 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to a city of Amalek and laid wait in the valley. Right, and Saul said unto the Kenites, go, depart, get you down from Amalek, from the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with kindness, lest I destroy you with them. For ye shewed kindness to all the children of Israel, right? Salakia. I'm gonna jump down to verse 7. And Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou camest to Shur, that is over against Egypt. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep and of the oxen and of the fatlings and the lambs and all that was good, will not utterly destroy them, but everything that was vile and refused, that they destroyed utterly. So it's crazy that he literally got this from the Lord face to face of what to do, and he did the opposite. You know, just not listening. The Lord requires us to be obedient, and then if you repent from something, why would you go back to that? Like I say, we got Day of Atonement coming up. Let's get that in Sirach. Because you repent and you wash yourself, you know, and you go back to the same dirty cloth, the same wickedness that you supposedly washed from. Sirach chapter 34, verse 25, it says, he that washeth himself after the touching of a dead body, if he touch it again, what availeth his washing? So what's the point? You go take a shower and you go right back outside into the mud, right? You take a shower and you just go back into just getting yourself filthy. Or you take a shower and put on dirty clothes again. But there's no point of you doing that. You ain't gotta work. You ain't gotta do no outside whatever that may be, no activities. Hey, you take a shower and put on dirty clothes. For what? It says, what availeth his washing? So it is with a man that fasteth for his sins and goeth again and doeth the same. Who will hear his prayer? Will do his humbling profit. Right? So we got to take heed as Day of Atonement coming up. We don't want to repent for all these sins, the things that we have done, in the past and recent, and you go right back to those same sins. You know, you go right back to that. Let's get Corinthians. First Corinthians 15. This First Corinthians 15, verse 9. Right? It says, for I am the least of the apostles, that am not meet to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. But by the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace, which was bestowed upon me, was not in vain, but I labored more abundantly than they all. Yet not I, but the grace of God which was with me. So you don't want the Lord's grace in vain. You don't want the Lord's grace period in vain, right? And Saul was literally commanded the second time to do what was done by the Lord, and he did the opposite, right? So verse 10, 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 10, it says, then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, it repenteth me that I have set up Saul to be king. So you don't want the Lord to be repentive of bringing you in his truth. getting you the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and you're not doing what's required, right? You don't want the Lord to be repentant for that, because that means that you just you just ashamed, right? Let's get that Proverbs. Let's see if I can find that through the Spirit. Quick Proverbs chapter 19, right? Right, Proverbs chapter 19, right? It says a foolish, right? Proverbs chapter 19, verse 13, right? It says a foolish son is the calamity of his father. So the Lord, hey, if you being foolish, the Lord is gonna get rid of you. He don't have to keep dealing with you. See, man, if you a disaster to a, you got Jake now. Jake, Jake, the man don't care, man. Nowadays, they doing whatever they want to do. They, hey, forget it. They just bye. You know, it says a foolish son is a calamity of his father. If you a disaster towards the Lord gotta get the Lord gonna get rid of you, right? The Lord is gonna get rid of you. So you don't want the Most High to be repentant of you after all these years or however long you've been in the truth. That's scary, man. Right? It says back to that First Samuel 15:11. It repented me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he has turned back from following me and have not performed my commandments. Right? Have you performed the Lord's commandments? Have you turned back from following the Lord? These questions we gotta ask ourselves. When is the time the Lord was knocking on your mind and you did something else? We gotta ask these things. You wanted to do the will of whatever your name is, the will of what? Shema Wa'al, the will of Mawasar, whoever watching this video, you want to do the will of yourself instead of the will of the Lord. It says, for he is turned back from following me and have not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night. So it grieved him. So the Lord commanded us to be obedient, man. So as today, not just the Day of Atonement, because everybody like to wait until the Day of Atonement to fast and to repent and to correct themselves when it should be daily. We have to wash ourselves daily. We have to make sure we're on a straight path daily. We have to make sure we're doing the will of the Lord daily. We got to examine ourselves daily. Everything that we do for the Lord has to be consistent. It can't be lukewarm. Right? It's Psalms. Let's go to Psalms. And then you got it out through the Spirit. Right? Psalm chapter 50. Psalm chapter 50. What I want to. Psalm chapter 50, verse 8. It reads, right, Salaki. It reads, I will not reprove thee for thy sacrifices or thy burnt offerings to have been continually before me. I will not, Salakia, I will take no bullock out of thy house, nor he goes out of thy folds, for every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle upon 1,000 hills. I know all the fowls of the mountains, and the wild beasts of the field are mine. So, hey, out of the mouth of David, the Lord is saying, hey, I'm not finna approve all those burnt offerings and the sacrifices. Them bullocks, those mine. The goats, those mine. The beasts of the forest, they mine. The cattle of the hills, they mine. Right? Verse 11. I know all the fowls of the mountains and the wild beasts of the field are mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell thee, for the world is mine and the fullness thereof. Will I eat the flesh of bulls or drink the blood of goats? Offer unto God thanksgiving and pay thy vows unto the Most High. Right? It says, hey, do what the Lord say. Yes, he has delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, but can he eat those sacrifices? He has delight in that sweet savor. But if you're not doing what he says, those sacrifices don't mean anything because you're not doing what told you to do in the first place. The Lord requires obedience. Right? Let's get another precept through the Spirit. Psalm chapter 51, verse 16. It says, "For thou desirest not sacrifice, else would I give it. Thou delightest not in burnt offering. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart. O Yahweh, thou would not despise." You got to be sincere in this thing. If you breaking God's commandments and you doing not what the Lord tell you to do, are you really sincere? Are you in this thing to have your own type of glory? Because really, we should all have a broken spirit. I mean, the Lord bring us in His truth. We dwelling in His flesh, and it's things that we done that we don't know about. We should always be in a broken spirit. We in captivity, right? You owe so much to the Lord, but what can you give Him? Which He gave us the things that we can give Him according to the precepts, and according to Bashem Yahushua. But what can we give Him? We so much in debt. So you should always be with a broken heart and a contrite spirit, and having the fear of the Lord. And whatever He tells you to do, you should do it with all your might. But you gotta opt.
I want to get this in Psalms chapter 90, and I'm gonna start at verse number 11. Right, it's Psalms 90 and 11. Who knoweth the power of thine anger? Even according to thy fear, so is thy wrath. Verse 12. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. One thing that'll teach you to number your days is to understand who is in control of how many days you get, which is the Most High. Most High is in control of all things. All right, let's get that in Sirach, chapter 11. Since the Most High is in control of all things, just like He was able to reject Saul, just like He was able to replace Saul with somebody who's better than him, we got to really understand that the Most High really is in full-blown control. Right, this Sirach chapter 11, and I want to start at verse number 14. Sirach 11 and 14. Prosperity and adversity, life and death, poverty and riches come of the Lord. It said life and death comes of the Lord. Hey, what they say in the world, you only live once. Everybody got to die someday. Hey, with that understanding, who is in control of when you die, of how you die? The Most High is. So when David was saying what he was saying in Psalms chapter 90, let's go back to that. We got to truly remember that the Most High is in complete control of what's going on. Right, I'm going to get Psalms chapter 90, and then I got one more precept, and you got it. It's Psalms chapter 90 and verse number 12. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. And through the Spirit, that's what the brothers that you see making the YouTube videos are doing. The brothers you see going to camp. The sisters, the children that's putting on their fringes every day, that's waking up every day fighting temptation, fighting as hard as they can. That's a bunch of people, a bunch of Israelites who understand that their days are limited. I mean, it's Wednesday it's 7:36 where I'm at right now. We could be doing anything. Man, we could be on our way. We could be on our way to the mall, buy an outfit for the club tonight. But yet and still, we here numbering our days, which is, hey, the Most High gave me this ability to teach the people. Hey, I'm gonna get on. I'm gonna do my thing on this Wednesday. And that's what me and the brother doing, right? I said I had one more precept, and then you got it. This is Isaiah chapter 45. Let's get the classic, right? Still touching on the fact that the Most High is in complete control. This is Isaiah chapter 45 and verse number 7. I'm going to start at verse 6. Verse 5. Come, verse 5. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me, that they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west, that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. And here's the point, verse 7. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. You got to understand that any and everything that you've ever heard about happening, that you've ever seen happen, was of the Lord. Nothing gets done without the Most High stamp on it. And that, like the brother said earlier, if that don't increase your fear of the Lord, hey, I don't know what to tell you. You realize you could have been born an Edomite. Imagine that. You wouldn't have no say so of it. You can't say nothing. What you gonna do about it? Right? Imagine if you was Holofernes, you was Nero, you was Nebuchadnezzar. Hey, you can't do nothing about that. But yet and still, hey, we know we the Israelites. We know that we God's chosen people. Hey, you got to rejoice in that because, hey, the Lord creates evil. There's people on this planet who are created to be destroyed. Understand that. What you got out?
Right? That's right. Mighty points. If that don't put the fear in the Lord in you, I mean, that mean that what can put the fear in the Lord in you? At this point, you gonna go through a path that you do not want to go to. You'll go down a path that you don't want to go down to, right? So we go to Sirach. Got one quick precept. It's Sirach chapter 10. Because the way how Saul reacted is him being prideful. So we gotta humble down through the spirit. Saul was very proudful. For you to even depart from the Lord and not to do what he says, you being proudful, stiff necked, hard headed, right? Sirach chapter 10, verse 12. It says, the beginning of pride is when one departed from God and his heart is turned away from his maker. How can your heart be turned away from your maker? How can your how can your heart depart from the Most High? Because of pride, right? It says, verse 13, for pride is the beginning of sin. So for you to even commit a sin, you have to be proudful to even do it in the first place. Right? It says, for pride is the beginning of sin, and he that hath it shall pour out abomination. And therefore the Lord brought up on them strange calamities and overthrew them utterly. And we see in the scriptures of somebody who's being prideful, right? Doing something that's they not supposed to do, doing something the Lord told them not to do, right? So, we got to be humble in this thing. Saul was not humble. He had an order. The Lord, thus said the Lord, told him to wait here patiently the seventh day. He didn't come out at the time on that seventh day. You still supposed to wait until he shows up. That's when you make a move. But he didn't because everybody else was surrounding him. So he didn't have patience. That's prideful. I'm gonna just do it and I just force myself. I mean, it doesn't feel wrong when you gotta force to do things. It doesn't feel right. So I don't know how, you know, just think about it. How can you not feel that in your spirit that you're not even supposed to be doing it in the first place? Right? That's off. Right? I was jump down to verse 18. It says, for pride was not made for men. So pride was never made for men. Right? Righteousness was made for men. Humbleness, the fruits of the spirit, right? Being sincere, that was all made for men, not pride. Right? The other nations are prideful. Right? So let's get some humble precepts. You know, not really too much, just to make sure brothers and sisters that we all, wax old in his truth. Because Saul, hey, when it came to that third year, and it can happen to anybody, you start to slow down. You start to not Have the fear of the Lord how you once did, not have that zeal, when you came in this truth. And now your heart is start to depart from the Lord. And that's a scary thing, right? Let me see what precepts are on. Let's go to Sirach chapter 2. And then you got it out if you got something. Sirach chapter 2, verse 17. Right. Sirach chapter 2, verse 17. It says, they that fear the Lord will prepare their hearts and hold their souls in his sight. So if you fear the Most High, you will prepare your heart. You will consider your thoughts. You will actually be like, hold on, is this even right to do? Hold on, what am I doing? That's the fear of the Lord. Not saying that your fear of the Lord is through the roof, but you know that you fear the Most High when you just sitting down and you may not even be doing a sin. You're not doing the sin. You're not doing the sin. You ain't do, but you may be like, man, am I supposed to do this? That'll let you know that, hey, the Lord is on your mind and you want to make sure that you're doing his will, not your own. Right? It says, they that fear the Lord will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight, saying, we will fall into the hands of the Lord and not into the hands of men. For as his majesty is, so is his mercy. Right? So, hey, you should always prepare your heart and humble your soul in the sight of the Lord, or he gonna humble it for you. And that's not true. That's not what you want. But Saul was prideful. Him being prideful had him not listen, right? Him being prideful had him do the things he wanted to do and not do the things of the Lord, right? But that's all I got through the spirit, brother. If you got something,
Come on, I can get one more before we close out. Give me one second. All right, I want to get this in. Let me see. All right, let's just go through the spirit. Cause hey, like the title say, remember Saul. Remember Saul for the things he did, and more importantly, for the things he did not do. All right, I want to get Sirach chapter 11. Right, bear with me. I'm trying to get this and handle something else at the same time. It's Sirach chapter 11. And I believe I want verse 1. Come. Sirach chapter 11 and verse 1. Wisdom lifteth up the head of him that is of low degree, and maketh him to sit among great men. I'm going to drop down to verse 5. Many kings have sat down upon the ground, and one that was never thought of have worn the crown. I'm going to read that one more time to make sure that the people get it. This is Sirach chapter 11 and verse number 5. Many kings have sat down upon the ground, and one that was never thought of have worn the crown. Who was thinking about David when he was anointed king, or when Samuel went to his father to anoint him as the king? Right. I mean, David was the youngest of what, 8 boys? Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we just went into Joseph not too long ago. We know how it is having brothers. According, when it comes to biblical times, hey, it was rough. But yet and still, like the scriptures say, one that was never thought of have worn the crown. Many kings have sat down upon the ground. It said that Saul was head and shoulders above all the rest of the people. If Saul was standing amongst us right now, you can't miss him. That's how tall he was. Right? He was everything physically that we would think of as a great leader. Somebody you will follow by default, by nature. But yet and still, I'm going to read this one more time before we close out. It's Sirach chapter 11 and 5. Many kings have sat down upon the ground, and one that was never thought of have worn the crown. And what if that verse was talking about you? What if you are that one that was never thought of that the Lord is planning to set up to wear a crown? But hey, we all know how the Lord get down. Hey, if you don't want to do His will, if you don't want to be on His side, He not gonna be on your side. All right. Let me get this in the book of James, and then it's my last precept. It's James chapter 4. All right, because even the mighty brother James had to speak on it, had to let us know what was really going on through the Spirit. All right, bear with me, y'all. Okay, kind. I'm in the right space. It's James chapter 4 and verse number 8. Draw nigh to God, and He will draw nigh to you. So, if the Most High will draw nigh to you by you drawing nigh to Him, that means He'll draw far away from you if you draw far away from Him. Like the brother just brought out, hey, pride is the beginning of departing from God. Right? Or departing from God is the beginning of pride. So the moment that you have pride, like Saul did, hey, guess what you telling the Most High? I'm cool on you. God forbid a brother tell the Most High, no, I'm cool on you, bro. Nah, Lord, you was cool back in the day. I ain't rocking with you like that no more. You know, you was the Lord, you was Yahweh and everything, but I don't know, you just ain't the same. I mean, God forbid a brother or a sister got that mindset. Right? So like I say in Psalms 90 and 12, hey, let the Lord teach us to number our days that we can apply ourselves to wisdom. But with that, if the brother ain't got nothing else, right?
No, I ain't got nothing through this. I ain't got nothing through the spirit.
Huh? With that, we want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. All right, Kwam Yashrala, Shalom.
Shalom.